Hey, hello, and welcome to Double Radio
Made it.
Gamescast. You made it. As always, I'm your host, Ryan, and I'm joined today by my lovely duo of co-hosts, and we'll get Alex in it if he can, but he's having some power issues, so he may not be
So
here.
sorry.
You can go watch his reactions to everything. We did a reaction stream just before this of our the entire Xbox and Bethesda showcase, and now we're gonna do the episode about the Xbox and Bethesda showcase. It's number 114. We're chugging along. You two excited?
Yes,
Ready?
very
Great.
actually.
This time, yes.
We got a lot to talk about. And if you're curious about our thoughts on other Summer Game Fest stuff, we're going to do that next week because there's too much to talk about otherwise.
Yes.
We have to pare down what we're talking about because it's a lot. There's a lot of things. So,
The 90-minute show.
very long show, lots of things. This was very fast paced. We got a
Yeah.
ton of stuff to talk about. But a few orders of business first. It's a week. There's been some news. Major thing that's affecting the podcast. I now work at Blizzard Entertainment. I've taken a job as a game designer on Diablo 4, and that
Congratulations,
means a
Ryan.
couple of things for the podcast. Nothing crazy. There's no crazy changes. We're not stopping. Nothing's weird is happening. The main thing is if we are talking about Blizzard things or things that I know anything about outside, I haven't started yet. So I don't have any. There's nothing coming into today about this, but going forward, I will not be talking about most Blizzard things. I'm going to leave that up to my other co-hosts to discuss any news or whatnot that's coming out. I will still talk about if we get like a public trailer for something. I will talk about it. You know, if we're getting public reveals of things, I will still talk about games I'm excited for and whatnot. But I'm not going to be talking about a lot of Blizzard stuff. I'm not going to be talking too much about Overwatch 2 or whatnot or anything like that, just because I don't want to. I want to separate. The easiest way to guarantee that there was never an issue with me working at Blizzard and doing the podcast is to just avoid talking about Blizzard things myself
Yes.
on the podcast. So that's going to be the approach going forward. So be aware of that. If I'm not talking about a Blizzard thing, it's not because I'm not interested. It's just because I can't talk about it in good conscience for the most part. Second thing related to that, any opinions that I am expressing are entirely my own and not the opinions of Activision Blizzard, Blizzard Entertainment, anyone there. They're my own things, nobody else. That's the stuff that I need to say. And then now we're done. Now we can move on to news in games to talk about.
I will say, now we will get to see what happens to a person when they are working on a game. You get to see how they change physically during game development. And
If Ryan gets a few gray hairs, you don't know
you will
why.
see the physical toll that game development takes on someone, especially
God.
AAA. It'll be great.
We're having a fun time here. This podcast.
To say it's going to be bad, it's hard for anyone, you know, in whatever kind of environment project you're working on, it takes a toll. So
Yep. Aside from that, we have one piece of news that I want to talk about just because it's a sad bit. Billy Kametz, a very, very well respected voice actor, died at age 35 of colon cancer, and it's very sad. He's voice acted in some of my favorite games. He's Ferdinand and Fire Emblem, does a ton of other stuff, and it's always heartbreaking to see this kind of news. So really sucks. It's the same type of cancer that took away Total Biscuit back in the day. Awful disease. No fun. Now we're gonna talk about fun things. We got the sad bit out. We're gonna talk about fun things. We watched an Xbox and Bethesda showcase, and I think overall opinions on this, just first sentence that comes to mind, I'm having a good time. I'm having a good time with this show.
very good.
I wasn't sure I would, but we're sitting pretty now. So I think you can look back and Wyatt and I were pretty positive on the Summer Game Fest show.
Mhm.
In comparison, this trounces it.
Oh, handily.
In
Handily.
comparison, this was far better.
This is like pitching. This is like having a heavyweight boxing champ versus like an infant. Like it's not even comparable.
God.
Yeah. I think this is definitely a good showcase. We got a lot to talk about. We're not going to go in any particular order. We're just going to go through some of the games that we've seen, maybe in like a loose chronological what is coming soon order. I think is good. Toss out a few quick things. Naraka Blade Point's coming to Game Pass.
I
One of the-
I don't know much about it.
least interesting things on the show. Unfortunately, not to say that it's not interesting. It's just one of the least exciting things.
Yeah.
Forza Horizon getting the Hot Wheels expansion. Love to see that. That's
Looks
going to be a
fun.
good time. Second Hot Wheels expansion. Not included in Game Pass. You got to shell out for the expansion, but great game. You played on Game Pass. Plague Tale Requiem. It's coming out very soon.
Mm-hmm.
That's on our soon list. We got a new trailer for it and it looked very good.
I
I
did.
keep
I haven't played
meaning
the first
to.
one.
Yeah, I keep meaning to play the first one. The second one seems like it is going to have a little bit more like action in it than just straight up
Yeah.
stealth, which is interesting.
And I'm
Yeah,
going in for anyone following along. I'm going in loose order of the post that they have put out. Xbox has put out of all the games they talked about and games that are coming soon. One notable omission from this: Silksong. Hollow Knight Silksong
Oh,
was
yeah,
at
weird.
this show. We saw it. We did not get a date, not even a tentative date, but we saw a lot of gameplay and it looked very good. Just want to bring it up early on because it's not on the list that they put out, so I think that means they don't know the release date yet.
Yeah.
Majority of other things shown at this showcase, they said, are coming within the next 12 months. So not just 2022, but early 2023, going up to summer. Lots of interesting things. Plague Tale Requiem, I think, looked great. One of the more like visually impressive. I love the armor designs.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah.
mask is really cool.
Look very good. So excited to see this coming, and it's definitely gotten me interested in going to check out the first game because I haven't played it yet, and I know I would like it because it's a stealth action game, and that's like the best type of game. So it'd be a good time, but just haven't gotten around to it. After that, we have, I don't know if we knew this before, but this is on this graphic, and Valheim on Game Pass is just like on here.
Yeah, they
I
didn't say
didn't-
anything about that
Yeah.
during the
They
show.
didn't say anything about it.
That's a
I don't
big
know if this was
grab for Game
announced.
Pass. That's a
Valheim,
big,
I mean,
that's a
Valheim's
big
only
get.
like $15, but that game is great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Really, really good. And it just being here really surprised me because I didn't know it was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, great game. Looking forward to watching, or not watching, playing that more. I've owned that game for a long time, and it has been very fun. Waiting for some new stuff to come to it. Aside from that, As Dusk Falls. This is one of our other early 2022 games coming soon.
Mhm.
I want to know opinions on this. This game has been interesting to look at.
I'm gonna come out and say it. I think of all the things that I've seen, I think this was the weakest showing, personally.
Yeah.
We weren't
This
high on this art style to begin with, and I think
No.
the second
Yeah.
showing has not done it a lot of favors.
Yeah, and it doesn't. It's still so confusing with the gameplay because it's like it looks like a visual novel story based thing, but it can be 8-player co-op. It just doesn't really.
Which
It
is the
doesn't make
part that
sense.
piqued my interest a little bit. I was like,
It's-
oh, like a
yeah.
branching narrative with 8 players sounds really interesting.
But
Like,
they haven't shown
everyone-
what that does, like how that
Yeah,
works.
what the gameplay even is, maybe.
I'm
like-
gonna go out. This is just pure speculation. I think because they were showing off the like different branching like storylines and stuff visually, right? I think that got so overwhelming that it led to the art style being the way that it is.
I don't know, maybe.
I
don't
wonder
know.
because
It's
they're
hard to
different
tell.
teams. That's the thing. Like your people doing art are not the people doing your writing, but maybe they did not expect the scale, and they had like a small number of artists, and they're like, we can't make this
Maybe,
many
yeah.
characters.
Yeah.
Fully realized in 3D. So now they're doing the like photo manipulation.
The thing is,
approach.
too, I wouldn't, because again, like visually, it just wasn't really clicking with me, and I feel like it would click with me more if it was more consistent, because
Yeah.
because the characters wouldn't move. They were
If so
still
few
frames.
frames of like animation, where instead of like having a character move, because we've seen a lot of like 2D 3D games, that's not an uncommon art style. What's uncommon is to have them have this little motion to them, where you'll have like a 2D character that like fades into black and then fades into being somewhere else on the screen, and it just looks a little
Yeah.
But the
amateurish.
weird part of that is that sometimes like hair would be flowing in real time, or like you would have a
Yeah.
car. The weirdest part, the most off-putting part, was you had like a 3D model of a car. It was going down the road. There was a lizard that was behind it, and the lizard was like a bunch of still frames. And so you had like two completely different kind of like
Yeah.
art styles and animations just on the same screen, and it it was very strange.
Inconsistent.
I am the resident liker of weird, crazy art styles for video games, and I'm just gonna like my opinion is that this game visually looks absolutely terrible. I did not like the way it looked at all. And I
It's
was
like I like the
expecting
3D models. I just don't like the
yeah, they look fine.
combination of things.
Exactly. It's just
The
in tandem with
problem
each other, it looks really just weird and poorly put together.
and the problem with the character art is that they clearly are like done by someone. The problem is they look very realistic to a point where it's like, okay, this is like a picture of someone, and then you threw like a Photoshop
Like a
filter
painterly
on it.
filter on it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I'm sure there was a lot more work that went into that, right? Because that I'm sure.
The work doesn't show super
Yeah,
well.
that's how it comes across, unfortunately.
And like I think the thing
I
to note here is we all have experience developing. We know this is a thing that can happen where you'll think something looks really good, and then you'll show it to other people, and they're like, I don't like that. So it is possible we're just not getting it. Like I think it's
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
possible it's on us as to not understand what they're going for here. But a lot of that comes down to the way these trailers have been constructed is not very conducive to me understanding what's going on in this game.
Mhm. And they
And I
also
think that's a
like
big problem.
this is the only time, save for like with the Bethesda games and Starfield, that someone came out and talked before a game was shown, and it's like for this no, this does not
Yeah.
feel right. It was really really weird.
And they did
Well, because
start
they didn't show
gameplay.
the
The person
trailer
came
until
out.
after.
It's
Yeah,
yeah.
it was very strange.
Again, if you're
I
gonna
don't
have
know.
someone
I
come out
was
and talk, unless it's Todd Howard leading us into the trailer, have them come out after the trailer, so we have like some
yeah.
explanation for what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I because for a lot of these game presentation things, I just like kind of I'm interested in like two of the things, or like three of the things maybe, and I just kind of go like, oh, other people would like that, and so I just kind of expect like a lot of the things to be like a flat line emotionally for most of the show. This is like one of the only times where it was like a flat line for me, because
Yeah.
it's just everything else at least is a little bit like, oh, I could see this one of my friends would like that, or like this, I'm kind of getting into this kind of game genre, and this looks like a cool new version of that, so maybe I'll pick it up, or it's on Game Pass, so I'll try it out at some point. I have to basically. Um, but like this specifically was one of the few times where it's like, for
Didn't
me at
show
least,
super
there's
well.
no, yeah,
And
there's no contesting. There's no one of us that's like, oh, I'm actually really into this. I don't understand why you don't like it.
Well,
It's
because
just weird.
I'm really into this type of game. This did not sell me on it.
Mhm.
But if it's this type of game, you're going to be stuck with this art style for a while. So it's
I mean,
something
yeah,
that has
I will
to-
try this game. I don't know that I'll stick with it because I'm normally a person that's not really bothered by art style, but there's been a few exceptions recently. As Does Fall, I think might be one of them. A lot of like it's the reason I've never watched One Piece is I can't equate the art style that show has with the seriousness of it, and sometimes it just doesn't connect for me. Which is totally on me. It's not a problem with the show, but it does mean that like people have preferences, and sometimes art styles won't line up with those.
And I do wonder if this was in, say, Summer Games Fest or something, would we be as harsh on it?
I think so.
Because I mean, this is in a show of like otherwise really impressive heavy hitter stuff, and then there's At Dusk Falls. So I
It
wonder
does
if it
stand
was
out a little more
something.
because of that.
That's what I'm saying, right? So it's like if it was in Summer Games Fest, I feel like we may not even be having this discussion at all. At least as
We wouldn't be
long
having
as
this discussion of Summer Game Fest being a weaker show than it was, though. I think if that was the
Yeah,
case,
because I think it would compile into the fact that, at least in my opinion, because I was not there for the live viewing, the Summer Games Fest show itself was pretty lackluster as far as shows go.
I think
So
Wyatt and
this
I
I mean,
had
I liked
we had a
it.
really good
it would
time, but
it
in
would compound
comparison
it
to
me
this
being more
show,
eh.
way
Yeah.
worse. But
It's almost not even fair.
yeah.
It's
We're
not.
gonna
Yeah.
talk about Summer Game Fest. You can go check our live reactions, what we did, but we're gonna talk about it next week, just because we don't have time to talk about all of this week, and Summer Game Fest would be here for hours and hours. We've already been here for an hour and a half, so we're trying to go through these relatively quickly. Which gets to our next thing: Dark Tide and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. They both are on this list. We're not going to talk about them until next week, despite the fact that I think we like them, just because we're going to talk about them when we talk about Summer Game Fest. So we can have some split going on here. Grounded got a release date, September this year.
we were like on the edge of our seats. We were like, are they shadow dropping the full release? Are they doing it? That was like, that was a lot. I was like, no, don't do it.
September's close
Obsidian.
though. September's close, so I'm
Yeah.
fine with it.
I'm not complaining. That was like wishful thinking, definitely.
Yeah, I think this game, we've played the early game preview version. We played like the first version that went into game preview, and had fun with it. So I'm looking forward to playing the full
Yeah.
version of this.
It's this and Valheim are like the only survival open world crafting type stuff that I really
Yeah.
enjoyed.
Both are on Game Pass.
Yep. There you go.
Fallout 76, we saw it.
Why?
Getting an expedition
Why?
in the pit.
I said this during our reactions. I do hold some props to Bethesda for not just completely dropping this game. I do have this weird respect for them to just keep going with it anyway. I don't know.
Clearly, some people really enjoy this game. I think people that are into the survival aspect of Fallout 4 probably do enjoy 76. I think for Wyatt and I, that's not the reason we play those games, and it does not equate well to the multiplayer experience, especially because like when I was installing Fallout 76, I had to uninstall and reinstall the game like 4 times to get it to work because it just would not launch, and that is not a strong first impression.
We spent half the time in the entire time we were playing that game. Ryan spent half of that time just trying to get it to work.
It was awful.
Which is better than Battlefield 202042. That's
oh yeah, Battlefield 2042. I spent about 75% of the time trying to get it to work.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it was not a game I'm super fond of, but if you enjoy that game, power to you. You know, more stuff's coming your way, more content. So enjoy that. Moving on, we saw Overwatch 2. We're getting a beta for it. I am pretty mellow on hero shooters as a whole right now, so I'm not as excited as I would be. I was huge into Overwatch 1, but I'm just kind of at this point I'm playing way less PvP games, so not really my jam. I'm sure some people will like it.
In a combination of actual like, you know, seriousness and joke, I would like to think that Gundam Evolution put the fear of God into Overwatch 2 so hard that not only did they release a beta immediately after, but then also now it's free to play. And it legitimately does feel like a decision. Like, yes, people still play Overwatch, you know, although it's a fraction of the people that played it during its prime when everyone was crazy about it. How many of those people really do you think are going to pay full price for just what everyone agrees is more of almost exactly the same?
And even what they build as an update to Overwatch.
Exactly.
So
yeah. So I think free to play is probably the smartest decision for them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if it's free to play now, I'm probably gonna play it. You know, there are times where like I'm like, you know what, I'll reinstall Overwatch again. You know,
just because nothing else gets it right. Like I've played Rogue Company, I've played the other games that attempt to be like Overwatch, and most of them aren't very good.
Which, to be fair, Rogue Company isn't that bad.
Rogue Company is very fun, but it's not the same thing. It does not fill the same itch. It's more of that like military shooter vibe, which is very different.
Well, and it's like, hey, you know, I just want to go in and play some Junkrat for a bit if the roll queue doesn't screw me over too much, and then, you know, I'm good for a bit just because I like playing Junkrat or something like that.
Like we'll see. I'm more curious to see what the single player portion of this game ends up being.
Yes.
Just because we haven't seen it before, I want to know. But that is still likely a ways off because I believe that they've split. I could be wrong here. Because this was a while ago that they talked about this, that there might be a split now in terms of Overwatch single player and Overwatch multiplayer. That might have just been a rumor as well. I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, hold on, didn't they talk about this in like a?
I thought they did, but I can't. I cannot confirm this information. I haven't looked that hard. But it's certainly possible. Yeah, I'm more interested in the single player. Okay, yeah, this was confirmed. Okay, I just did find a thing. It's an article from a while back about an interview.
It's hardcore research in the span of 10 seconds.
Yeah, Aaron Keller, who's the game director, revealed that the aim is to give PvP earlier than they had initially thought it would be ready for because the single player is taking longer to develop, which makes sense. The single player is all new mechanics and whatnot, so I'm sure that it's taking more time, but I'm curious about that. I assume the single player probably comes sometime in 2023, and PvP is coming this year. So, yeah. Moving on, unless anyone else has other things to do about Overwatch. Nope, great. High on Life. This game looked awesome. It's a
I am
Justin
down.
Roiland
Yeah.
is your gun, and you have this crazy looking character design of all these different weapons and alien enemies and whatnot. I thought this game looked great.
It's
Very
definitely a
fun.
Justin Roilandy project for sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Which,
And I'm
if you're into that thing, that's great. I am, so I'm excited for that kind of humor. But if you're not, then it's definitely not going to be for you,
exactly.
Brett.
I was gonna say I'm gonna be the resident grumpy boy here, and that I
You
think
never.
Rick and Morty
Mm.
is probably one of the least funny things that I've ever seen. And
In a
I
world
don't
where
know.
Grown Ups 2 exists,
That's at
come
least funny
on.
to laugh at.
No,
You don't
it's too
when
pathetic. It's too pathetic to laugh
when a
at.
grown man screams, "I'm gonna get chocolate wasted," and you don't point and laugh at the patheticness of his life. I think that's more of a you thing. But uh, I don't. This game graphically, I think it looks very like really good. To the point where I think its own frame rate was struggling here and there. But I don't know. It looked creative. I'll give it that. I just won't play it. I'm not gonna
Yeah,
like
I'll
tear
give
it
you the
down or
story pitch
anything.
here that we were probably talking over and missed. It
Probably.
follows the adventures of a high school graduate who has become a bounty hunter after an alien drug cartel invaded Earth and enslaved humans. Nice
Okay.
pitch. I'm ready for whatever this game is like. I don't think
That's
we know
fun.
what the structure of it is. If it's going to be level based, open world, the hub. Um, Looked like at least some fairly expansive level areas with the like city block they showed. Yeah, I'm curious in this. It's by Squanch Games, who did Trover, which is another Justin Roilandy humor game that is very good from what I've heard. But you know,
Is that the studio? That's literally a Rick and Morty
it's called
reference.
Squanch Games. Yep,
That's great.
uh,
That's great.
good studio. Yeah, this looked very interesting, and this came out of nowhere. I think it was a nice breath of fresh air. All right. After that, we saw Scorn once again.
Again,
Finally.
Hey,
Yeah, it's
it's
been a
coming out this
while.
year now, so I think it looked like Scorn.
Yeah.
and by that you
Uh,
mean it looks gross.
Looks
Absolutely
gross.
Disgusting.
disgusting. Yeah.
I
In a
think a
good
lot of
way.
people will really
Intentional.
like this.
Mhm.
I'm not super into the body horror aspect, so this might make me a little queasy, but I'll probably still try it because it does look fun.
It's free.
Yeah.
It's on free. It's on Game
It's on Game
Pass.
Pass. Yeah, we know Atomic Heart is also coming to Game Pass sometime this year, which I still can't put together in my mind because I feel like that game is perpetually 10 years away from release. But that's
One of
coming
those
soon too.
one of those games.
Gunfire Reborn is coming to Game Pass.
Which means I'll
That's so
finally play
cool.
it. Ryan can finally
That
convince me
is
to
a
play it.
very good game. I've had a very
Yeah.
good time with Gunfire Reborn. Can confirm it is not in early access on Steam still. It released a little while ago, so this is like a Game Pass and Xbox release, I think.
Okay.
That they're tying together and not like the full release, because I was correct in assuming that that came out a while ago. Then Atlas showed up. Pete
Three
Hines was
funny
talking
colors
about
on the
Japanese
screen.
game, and Atlas comes up, and Brett and I are sitting there going, "It can't be everything.
And then there
It's
was a
everything."
butterfly. Yeah. Well, actually no,
Everyone's
you're right.
here.
It's all 3 of the 5 Persona games. You're
All
right.
three of the 5 Persona games that are worth playing in the
That
current
people
year
care about.
that
Yeah.
people care about.
I
So
would
Persona
still
1
love
and 2, not so much.
They're just very
Persona
different
1
games.
is they're different. Persona 1 is like the dungeon crawler experience. Persona 2 is like where they actually started to get like pretty cool and good with their like story and stuff, but it lacks a lot of the mechanics that 3 and on have. But still would like to see newer version of those because we have the first new port of Persona 3 since the PlayStation Portable.
Yeah.
And it is P3P, which means that for all your overworld things, it is just visual novel, and you don't get to walk around and do stuff yourself. And that also means that there's a good chance if they do it one to one, that all the cutscenes will just kind of be visual novel on-screen gobbledygook and not like really nice 2D animated FMVs like they are in the PS2 version. But I really hope they at
I
least
do
bring those
wonder.
in because I like, come on, man. That
Mixing the
being
two
said,
would
though,
definitely be the way to go, but I'm not sure
that's
if that's
yeah,
something they're going to put the effort in to do.
it's yeah, because they have it advertised as P3P, and in the trailer you can see that it is just like the visual novel
Yeah.
exploration. But just having a way for people to play that nowadays is awesome. That is something
Yep.
that I think most people never thought would happen, and we have Persona 4 Golden also coming to the
Yeah,
Xbox
available on Steam right now, but
ecosystem
it's coming to Xbox and PC next year.
on Game Pass. All of these
Game
I
also.
Pass PC.
I very much commend Microsoft for trying to reach out and get more Japanese games onto their platform because that is
Yeah.
something I feel like day one outside of things like it just they've had such a hard time kind of reaching that
Oh, 'cause it's not a
Yeah.
market.
huge platform in Japan. I think that's the big thing
Mhm.
Yeah,
is Japanese game developers tend to be very Japan centric in how they develop,
yeah.
and
I remember back
I mean
when
how
like
popular in Japan, and
I remember
Yeah.
back when the Xbox One was coming out and how abysmally it's
I
sold
think
in
that has
Japan. It
started
was
to
like
change for Atlas
mhm,
specifically because Western sales are such a big portion of their sales now.
Yeah.
mhm.
Uh, Big thing, Persona 5 Royal is coming to PC
Yes.
and
Gonna say
Xbox on Game Pass. That's big news because Persona 5 Royal was locked to PlayStation for a long time, and
that.
like
Mhm.
we have Persona 5 games in other places. We have the dancing game multi-platform. We have the Warriors game is multi-platform. It's on Nintendo Switch. You could never play the actual story that you
The
like
main
need to
game.
understand in order to play those games
Yeah.
anywhere
Which,
else.
I'd like to say typical Atlas, but maybe that's changing now.
Maybe it's
Maybe we'll
changing.
actually get things developed for things that people will play the game on instead of just like one random portable
Yeah.
system and nowhere else for 20 years.
Hey, maybe this will be a
I
good reason for me to finish Royal because I have not finished Royal yet, and it was
I
very
can play
good.
it now.
Yeah, I can guarantee you this is going to be on our Game Pass Games Club the month that it comes out. So
Oh, for sure. Yeah, at least the
100%
beginning of
we're
it.
making everyone play Persona. Uh, After that, we saw Pentiment, which is the super
Yeah.
cool point, not quite point and click, but like a small scale Obsidian game where you are a man in the olden times wandering about on this like very painting woodblock art kind of aesthetic. Gorgeous game. I love how this looks.
Mhm.
Uh, I love the idea that this is probably a relatively low budget game, no voice acting. Definitely looks like it was relatively cheap to make, but probably it's Obsidian. I think the writing is going to be what knocks this out of the
Yeah.
park. And it's exciting to see more weird things like this on a big stage, especially by like a AAA developer. We get to see a cool indie idea getting made there.
I think that's
Yeah.
that's one trend we're starting to see with Microsoft is that they're very welcoming of like smaller budget, smaller team projects, which is great.
Mhm.
Because as much as and PlayStation does this a little bit, but as much as I love PlayStation exclusives, they're very big teams,
All the time. Yeah.
expensive, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it's nice to see like a larger company like Microsoft being really accepting of these smaller scale projects.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you just want like 8-hour linear nice story. You
Yeah.
don't want like a huge gigantic like
You don't want to
hyper
dive into a
realistic.
million different mechanics and systems and stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this looks like it's just gonna be like a cool little small unique time, and I'm all for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
The
Sounds
main
great.
comparison for what the goal of this game is has been Disco Elysium, from what I've seen, where it's trying to just
Mm.
be really narrative forward, a smaller game, which I love. Great idea. So hopefully this is good. Microsoft Flight Simulator back again. You can fly a pelican now. That's
Good
Not
cool.
the
job.
bird, the
The Halo
the
thing.
this the
The
Halo
the
thing.
The Halo thing. Yeah, it looks fun. You can take it up real high. It seemed they're also getting some early flight expansion stuff. We're seeing the Wright brothers original aircraft and all
yeah.
that kind of thing. Some early
Mhm.
biplanes and whatnot. Super cool. Love that. Uh, Not a huge flight simulator person, but I'm sure for people that are, this is great news.
Yeah.
We're moving on. A couple games we didn't see that I still want to remind people of because they are very cool. Party Animals and Slime Rancher 2. Didn't see them at this
Yes.
showcase. They are coming this year. Both of them look very good. I'm excited to play these games.
Slime Rancher, man. That original Slime
Slime
Rancher
Rancher
caught
1 I
me.
spent so much time in. It's wonderful.
That's a game where it like the hooks came out immediately and I was like dragged in. I was like, whoa.
Yep. All right. Moving to 2023, our further away things, Diablo 4 sneaking its way in this presentation. Not confirmed to be on Game Pass. Important to note with all the Activision Blizzard stuff is none of it is confirmed to be on Game Pass, for at least from the graphic they have shared. Of course, this is probably super confusing because of the current situation of the acquisition and whatnot.
Yeah.
So,
It could change.
could totally change. Don't know, though. Either way, I'm very excited for this. They revealed the Necromancer as the 5th and final class for the base game of Diablo 4. Oof. I want to play this so bad. This trailer was super moody, very atmospheric. Loved it. The Blizzard's back on top of their trailer game. Yep. Man, I want to play this game. Yeah. Any other thoughts about Diablo? I don't want to take all the Diablo time, but
I've never Diabloed before, so only you would know. A person who can't say that much about it.
I've dabbled in a bit of Diablo 3. I played Diablo Immortal for like 2 seconds, and I'm like, no, I'm good. I did get into Torchlight 2 for a little bit, so I have kind of dabbled in the genre a little bit. I don't know. I've been meaning to like really give this type of like action RPG another whack, because I feel like if I kind of stuck with it long enough, I could really get into it. But
I really recommend Diablo 3's console versions are wonderful for playing with a controller.
Maybe Diablo 4 is the time. Who knows?
Yeah, looking forward to trying this out. Gonna be a good time. All right, moving on to Redfall, coming early 2023 from what it looks like on this graphic. This game looked good. We got like a nice chunk of gameplay here. It looks like an arcane game. Nothing too different in terms of gunplay or anything, but abilities thrown into the mix. We saw some stuff like summoning a jump pad, using an umbrella shield. All the characters have like a different thing, what it seems like. And I think I want to say there's 4. There might be more than that. But from what they showed us, I think we saw 4. Guy that can go invisible. You got Raven summoning. So
you got a guy that can throw a spike into the ground and it shoots out electricity, which looked really cool.
Yep. We got a confirmation this is both single player and co-op. Great to hear.
So glad Ryan and I are going to be playing it.
Oh yeah, especially on Game Pass. Instantly gonna play this. It's set in Massachusetts too. I mean, I've grown up in Massachusetts, so looking forward to seeing a different take on that setting. Big into vampire things. We got our vampire game to tide us over while Masquerade 2 is in perpetual development hell. So,
right.
Fun to see this here. All right, Starfield is next on our list. I think we're gonna save Starfield for last because it was what they ended with. We're gonna save it for last. Forza Motorsport is our next thing. Actually, just realizing it's just called Forza Motorsport. No 8 at the end. It's not Forza Motorsport 8, just Forza Motorsport.
Interesting.
I get it, because Forza Motorsport, you can't go buy the old ones anymore because of the car licensing bonanza that is car deals. Same with, like, you can't go buy Forza Horizon 3 anymore because it is in the zone of car licensing has made them not able to sell the game anymore. So, good to see this coming out. I think motorsport fans, Gran Turismo may not have filled the itch as much as people wanted.
Yeah.
So having Forza Motorsport back in the throw of motorsport games is exciting. They showed some cool new tech, new weather things, weather affecting all the tracks. You can play all the tracks at day or night, so lots of options.
Bunch of cool camera stuff too.
Yeah, that was really interesting.
Photo mode's going to be crazy.
Oh man.
Yeah, the game looked really good. The way they had like the engine block fully rendered out looked great. So very much looking forward to seeing what this game is like. I'm not normally a motorsport fan, but doing this with Game Pass seems like it'll be a fun time to try it out. All right, after that we saw Minecraft Legends, which I don't know. We don't know what this game specifically is. To me, it screamed Brutal Legend.
It said action strategy.
Action strategy, Brutal Legend.
Right. Well, and someone threw out, I don't know who it was, but someone threw out, oh, is it like a Dynasty Warriors type?
Yeah, that was me, because I saw for a moment there was a character fighting a couple of like a group of people, but you also then have the soldiers following you. So yeah, I think this looks exciting. I'm not sure. I think the thing with Minecraft spin-off games so far has mostly been their scale. They tend to be these small scale, not super. I mean, they're well made, but not super well thought out in terms of how long you're going to play them and whatnot. That was Minecraft Dungeons' problem. That game is pretty fun to play, but it runs out of stuff for you to do very, very quickly. So I'm hoping this is a little bit better constructed in that regard. Minecraft Dungeons might be better now with the DLC that they've launched, but I'm not sure.
There is always that strange bugbear with like Minecraft spin-off games where it's like, wait, I'm not building things, but this is Minecraft.
It did look like there
The
was
whole
building here,
world is
though.
made out of blocks.
There was a bit where they were building a wall around a barricade, like settlement. So
But there might be more because from what I understand, Dungeons doesn't really have any like
not really.
building in it. Yeah, which that's not inherently a bad thing. It's just weird when you
That's like
play a
Minecraft's
Minecraft game.
Minecraft's thing, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's part of their art style too. It's very Whether
I
that
wonder.
bothers you or not depends on the individual, but
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, this game looks interesting. I'm
Yeah.
not super sold on the idea of Minecraft being a brand yet, but maybe this will make me come
neither.
around.
Yeah.
I think it's just a weird concept. It's like the idea of Minecraft Lego sets to me is just like we've gone full circle now, and now we're back to Minecraft emulating Lego, emulating Minecraft, and I'm like, okay, what's going on? So
Yeah.
it exists in this weird space now that I'm curious to see where it'll go. Also, speaking of which, Minecraft just got the new update, so you're into Minecraft's big new update. You can go play. I just downloaded it, and it'd be fun to jump into that. All right. After that, we saw a cinematic trailer for Ara History Untold, which is
Super cool cinematic. By
very
the way.
cool cinematic trailer. Felt like it was a cinematic for Civilization 7.
Mhm.
This game will probably play like Civilization. It's a turn-based game in that vein.
Yeah.
We did not see gameplay though, so maybe this will be very different. Maybe it won't be
One
on
of
the
the
hex grid.
one of the few, and this is a larger thing about the show as a whole. It's one of the few things that didn't have any gameplay. Right?
Yeah, one
This
of the only
show was like
things.
this show was like gameplay. We're cutting out all the fat. We probably had like maybe a total of 5 minutes of people speaking words, and that's it. Like,
Yeah, they went
just-
crazy.
it was a very focused show. We were saying like that did not feel like 90 minutes. It
Felt
just
very good.
flew
This was
by.
very on pace with what they did last year as well. Which
I
is
feel
great
like
to see.
this is a really good model for if you want to present your games in an E3 like presentation. In my opinion,
Yeah.
this is a way to do it right here. This is how it's done.
Yep. Okay.
Classy.
Moving on, we saw Wolong Fallen Dynasty. Confirmation this is set in China. It is a action game by Team Ninja and Koei Tecmo teaming up. Team Ninja, for those who don't know, makes the Neo franchise, which are extremely good action games. Very excited for this. And I am almost positive, I don't know if we have confirmation, but 100% positive that was Lubu at the end. If it's anyone else, I'm going to be very disappointed and then billing him as Lubu. This is extremely exciting. I don't know if either of you care, but
It looks cool.
yeah,
It's
it looked
Ninja.
rad.
Team Ninja in terms of action games. I mean, because what they also did, Strangers in Paradise,
yes,
Final Fantasy Origin. You have to say the whole title. So and that game is
Kill
just
Chaos.
it's a exactly just like gameplay wise, especially it is just a
Feels
wild
very
fun
good.
time. So if this is the dev team that they go to, like just companies go to, like just shop around. Oh, we want an action game spin off of this. Take it. Honestly, that seems great for them because they seem to do a really good job with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. The idea right now seems to be this will be a spiritual successor to Neo 2. Because they've stated that they want to kind of move on from Neo as a franchise and move into the next thing. So moving into this cool Three Kingdoms era Chinese mythology thing looks awesome. I'm very into this idea. If Lubu was a boss in this game, I'm gonna lose my mind. So very excited to play this. Yeah, this is hitting so many of my niches. Games that I enjoy. All right, moving on. Stalker 2 still on track for next year as of right now. We don't 100% know if that's going to happen because of the whole situation with Ukraine and them being a Ukrainian developer. Very understandable if it doesn't make that date, but currently they are still billed as being in 2023. Moving on to Flintlock.
This looked rad.
Yeah.
Made by the
Very
Ashen
excited.
developers.
Yep.
Yeah, I love the fox here. Very cute
Oh
fox
yeah,
creature.
Mhm.
great. Just like an interesting looking setting. It's just really cool armor designs. It's got that kind of
Like greed folly almost.
yeah, yeah. And I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I feel like there are enough games in that kind of setting, and
We're
I'm
getting
glad that
more
we're
of them. We got
seeing
New
more.
World is kind of the same
Exactly.
thing. Greedfall 2. So
Hmm.
I'm curious how this is gonna play because I think that was the biggest downside of Ashen is sometimes it plays like a low budget Dark Souls.
Hmm.
This
Yeah. This
looked
looks
better.
different enough.
I
Yeah.
think this looked less like
Very
it's trying to emulate something else. So
very acrobatic. There was a lot of like
a lot of
double jumps
jumping.
and then dodges in midair and stuff. It was cool. It looked cool.
You could like transform with your fox and fly through little triangles in the air. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm curious how this game is gonna play. Being on Game Pass means I'm gonna try it. So
Oh yeah.
moving on, Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes supposedly coming in 2023. It's not at the
Soon.
showcase, but this is the Suikoden successor that is being developed. The side spinoff, Eiyuden Chronicles Rising, I want to say it's called, just came out and is a good like side scroller. This is a more true strategy RPG. Man, I want to play this game. I
Yeah, I'm excited.
really want to play it. It's taken a while for it to get here though, because it was
Yeah, take their
kickstarted
time.
relatively recently. So
Yeah.
then we got a big League of Legends blowout. Riot Games did a big little thing that they've announced
Big
all their
little
things.
thing.
Big little thing. Where they've announced all their things. League of Legends, League of Legends Wild Rift, Valorant, Teamfight Tactics, and Legends of Runeterra are all coming to Game Pass. And what that means, because all these games are free to play, what that means is that you are able to play every champion, every character in all of these games. That's a huge deal for a lot of people, I think, because otherwise it's very expensive to play all these characters. League has 100+ champions that you would have to buy if you wanted to play all of them. So this is a very potentially big deal for anyone into these games. I don't think that's any of us. I think we're all kind of
Yeah.
not
Hmm.
super hyped about this. Maybe this will convince me to try Valorant, but I
I'm
think
interested to see how Riot
yeah.
continues to expand on this world and other types of games that I'm more interested in. Arcane is part of this recent
The
push
odd
to
thing
like
is we
expand the
didn't get
world.
an announcement of any of the single player games coming. We don't have the
Yes.
Yeah.
like what was it called, League of Legends Rift or something. The Ruin King. That's what it is.
Ruin King.
The
Yeah.
JRPG. No confirmation of that coming. No confirmation of the Hextech Mayhem thing coming. So those are the games I would rather see on Game Pass. I think
Yeah.
is the single player stuff because a lot of those are game concepts. I wonder how well they're doing.
Mm.
Just because of like free to play game spinning off into these other genres. I am curious to see sales numbers for those titles because it could be huge. They could be doing super well. I could also see them not doing super well
Mhm.
and wonder if they would have more value as a Game Pass attachment. I think only Riot knows that, and seeing as them not being here, that they might have decided it's not. So, yeah, it's a
And
curious situation.
the other thing with this too, because you said there's a lot of characters in League of Legends that normally you would have to pay for, and now it's all included here. It's a good example of like there's like the obvious Game Pass value of look at all these games
Yeah,
for however much a month, but there's a hidden value to it too. Where it's like you're not just getting League of Legends, you're getting all these characters as part of your $15 a month. And so that's like the more subtle, like hidden
Mhm.
advantage of it,
because
which I
now it
think
has
is
value to
interesting.
people that play these free to play games and not just people that
Right.
play these new single player and multiplayer games coming to Game Pass. So I think they're throwing a wider net with this, and you
Yeah.
might get I could see people picking up Game Pass for a month to try out League of Legends champions that they never would have tried out otherwise. I
Mhm.
could see that being a thing that happens. So I think this is good for both Riot and Xbox, Microsoft in the long run.
It's a great way to get new people into League of Legends when they have all the heroes at
Yeah,
their
and I think
fingertips.
it's a good way to get eyes on Teamfight Tactics and Valorant and Legends of
Mhm.
Runeterra, the like three games that I think have kind of been away from public perception for a while. So
Mhm.
I think exposing them to more people is probably a good thing. All right, moving on. We saw Arc 2. Good old Vin Diesel back in
Oh, Vin.
force for this like
Arc Family Evolved.
this is
God.
one of the other games that didn't have gameplay and it's mind-blowing to me because
Yeah.
it's Ark, and I'm
listen,
just so
it
curious
was
if it's different or not.
it was the best showing because you can roll back the footage, look at how hyped we were to see Vin on screen.
They
You know
were
what I'm
they
saying?
knew
Triumphant.
We were raising our arms. We were so
Yeah.
excited.
they were teasing
It
us
gave
as
us
to whether or not
exactly
Vin Diesel
what
would
we
be there.
wanted.
What a weird tie-in. God.
This is so strange.
Stupid.
I love it. This is a weird inclusion for me. I mean, it being on Game Pass is certainly a good pickup because a lot of people love Ark. But man, Ark has been the one survival game that has never clicked with me. I've tried to play it many times, and
it
none of the
should.
times I've enjoyed it.
And it should click with me because like you got weird technology and
You're like taming
dinosaurs.
dinosaurs, awesome.
That should be the coolest thing ever.
But it's just been so tedious every time I've tried to play it that I'm not having fun. Same thing with Conan Exiles. It's like the idea of both those games, but they felt so tedious to play
It
that I've
hits
just
a
not been
lot of
interested.
the it hits almost every single like survival crafting thing that I don't like, and it's the reason that I can get into something like Grounded or Valheim because they know when to like streamline a lot
Back
of those
away
things.
a little
Whereas
bit.
yeah, whereas Ark is like full on into those things, and it's good for people that are into that. It's just
Yeah.
it's the reason I
Yeah,
could
yeah.
never.
I'm
get
not saying
into
Ark should change. I'm just saying that is the
No, no,
reason
no,
we
no, no,
probably
no, no, no.
won't cover it a lot.
There's a space for Ark, and it fits in that space very well.
Yeah. Same reason people love Rust. Very different audience. All right, moving on. We saw Persona 3 Portable and Golden. We already talked about these, but this is where they're coming out in that 2023 block of games. Again, very exciting. Looking forward to
Yeah,
reliving
seriously.
Persona 3. So, excited to see these. And then we saw what Alex and I were so certain was Origami 3, or some weird
Yeah.
Origami spin-off. Arabin Shadow Legacy, which is like a shadow magic tech fighting robots game. I think this sold all of us pretty quickly.
Oh, it looks
Yeah.
Looks
sick.
great.
This
I'm
looked really
excited for
cool.
this.
This looked really cool.
Yeah, I think this game looks super interesting. I'm trying to see if we have a developer for this. I don't believe they showed us in the trailer.
Which is kind of
Developed
strange. now that I
by
think about
Baby
it.
Robot. They probably flashed
Okay.
the start and we might have missed it.
Maybe.
Yeah, I like the look of this a lot. I'm very curious as to what this is going to be. This looks like their first major project that is a complete thing.
I mean, it's pretty good
Yeah.
for something like that. Jeez.
So this is actually, it's a team made up of former students that formed their own development studio out of college.
Oh,
They've
nice.
done a couple other small independent projects, but this is their first what looks like big release game. So very exciting to see a smaller team like this getting a good show. Yeah, love
And
to
on
see
such
that.
a big stage too.
A huge
Yeah,
stage.
and with like a
And it
good
held
vision,
up.
a
Like
good
that game looked good in comparison to all
Oh,
the other
yeah.
stuff being shown. So, yeah, super excited to see what this actually ends up playing like. After that, we saw Ravenlock, which is a game by the developers of Echo Generation. Echo Generation, Brett and I aren't so hot on. Looks great, doesn't play so well.
Yeah.
This game looked very good. I love the art style here. I love this like Alice in Wonderland aesthetic of this pixel voxel monstrosities that you're fighting that kind of morph into different forms. Love the look of this. Not sold on the gameplay. That's what they need to adjust from Echo Generation. This looks action based and not turn based, so probably a step in the right direction for them. Still very curious as to what this is going to be.
Yeah, I'm iffy, but it looks cool, so I'll give it a shot. It's Game
Yeah.
Pass, so
You can't really go wrong.
yeah.
Love the character designs.
Oh yeah.
Looked great. All right. After that, we have two more really interesting little games. The Last Case of Benedict Fox. This is like a side-scrolling, Cthulhu-y looking game that I was really, really interested in. I think this
Yeah.
game looked great when it.
I can tell Griffin was losing his mind.
Oh yeah, it's being billed as a Metroidvania, which
Which it doesn't
I
look like.
I love the sound of that.
Mhm.
Well, because I was feeling the vibes of like it does functionally the way you move in this looks very similar to Metroid Dread. That's what
Yeah,
the
yeah.
movement most reminded me of. But I'm iffy on ever calling indie games Metroidvanias because a lot of the time
Yeah.
they fail to hit that mark.
Because it seems like with this especially, just from what they've shown, they didn't really show really any like anything but like linear platforming sections, which is fine. You can just have it. You can call it a 2D platformer and just have
Yeah.
that be a good thing. It seems very story based, and it seems like those two things together would lean further away from Metroidvania. That could change, but we'll just have to find out when it comes out. I guess I don't know. It's just that
Yeah.
moniker seems a bit of an iffy thing to drop when there wasn't really any evidence behind it and what they showed like at
And it's
all.
developed by Rogue Games. So here's a couple of billing statements they're using for this. You have a bond with a demon companion, which is that demon that we saw, and you can use that demon to delve into the mind of the dead and like walk into
Okay.
their limbo, their personal limbo. That's what this is being called, which super cool idea. There is combat, but it supposedly involves a lot more around environment, using the environment and traversal abilities that you have to kind of like hurt enemies that way rather than directly fighting them. Cool idea. So I'm definitely interested in this.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think it looked very good uh,
Yeah,
on that
visually it
showcase
looks
floor.
great.
Visually looked great. After that, we saw Cocoon. Cocoon looks crazy. Made by the same people as
Yep.
Inside and Limbo. Wild looking game. I love the aesthetic they have. It looks very different from Inside and Limbo, which I think is very
Yes.
satisfying
Thank
to see.
God. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see that they've finally discovered the third dimension. Because I think what really limited Inside for me is because it didn't have, it wasn't oozing style like Limbo is, and it kind of lost the novelty of it as well, and just
Yeah.
decided to kind of do the same thing again. This looks like they're actually doing something different and very interesting
This idea of like
looking.
cocooned worlds on your back or something that you're going and exploring inside looks
Yeah,
super
yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
Love
that
this
cool bug man.
weird look this game has. The color palette's great.
Mhm.
So I think it's super interesting. I have no clue how this game plays. I think that's the
Oh
other
yeah.
major thing. Like, we saw gameplay of this game. I don't know how this plays
Very
after
interested to
seeing the
see.
gameplay. I think it's definitely going to be a difficult case to know. All right, we've arrived. Time to talk about
It's time.
Starfield.
Oh, dear God. Dear God.
We don't have a release date. Other important note,
Nope.
we do not have
No.
a new date for this game. It's
Two
being
things to keep in
shown
mind.
as early
Or,
2023, but
no release date, and Todd Howard.
and Todd Howard
Yes.
showed us some ambition.
He
This
did.
time.
He did.
Some
Yeah.
big
It's-
ambition.
It's worth pointing out that 9 times out of 10 when Todd Howard's on the screen, he's spouting blanket platitudes about things that may or may not come into reality. It's usually just like he's just there on a stage and there's a crowd of people cheering no matter what in front of him because that's the fan base. But
And I also okay, go on.
today he came packing heat. He brought evidence for his
Yep.
claims.
He
Yeah.
He
backed
said
him
you're
up.
going to be able to build spaceships. Here's a spaceship builder. He said
This-
you're going to be able to
Look
do
at
this.
the spaceship
He showed
builder,
this.
and it looks fun.
Yeah.
And this
Exactly.
is if you want your developers talking about your game when you also have gameplays and trailers to show off, again, this is the way you do it. The developer talks for like 5 seconds about something, and then you show your example of that. You don't
Exactly.
just
Yeah, and then they
show
cut
this
back to
trailer
Todd and then
and
show
then-
more things that he's talking about. So
Mhm.
it felt
was
like it had a
great.
good flow. I think what we see, so essentially we're seeing a small gameplay demo set on a moon is our starting point here. We see you departing your ship. You have your little robot companion, and by little I mean very big robot companion, and some nice chunky looking guns moving through this like moon environment. I like the pitch here. The gun design I'm still not sold on because I don't want them all to just be boxes. And so far, ever since Fallout 4, that has been Bethesda's design philosophy. And even in Skyrim, the weapons are always too wide. They don't look streamlined. They don't look like weapons. I think most of these look okay for like the industrial space aesthetic.
I
But
thought it looked really cool, personally.
I'm just worried that there's only going to be one aesthetic for weapons, which is a red
That's
flag
understandable.
to me. I hope that's not the case. I hope we get some more streamlined looking things, maybe of like a higher tech variant or something.
Mhm.
But otherwise, I think this looked pretty good. There's definitely the only complaint I think I would maybe have is that these enemies look like they're not really reacting to hits. They're more in that vein of you're hitting an enemy like 5 times with a gun and they're not really reacting because this is an RPG and not a shooter first. So I think people that are expecting this to be a really good feeling shooter maybe dial back those expectations a little bit.
Yeah.
I think Fallout 4 was probably more on the shooter end than this is. It definitely looks like they are re-aiming for that RPG audience, going very heavily into character building and
and all of that is fine if you have some really interesting like RPG systems to back up what
I would
might be
say
kind of lesser things.
from this it looks like they do. I'll
Yeah.
go out on that limb and say I think they might have those systems in place here. Who knows? Todd made some big claims, and those big claims could end up meaning that this does not play as good as it looks like it might play. And I do think, like, I've definitely seen some people saying that the shooting does not look very satisfying. I get where that complaint's coming from, but I don't think we're really going to know until we have it in our hands.
Yeah.
That's
I think
always a really hard thing to tell.
Exactly. And I do think it's in this weird middle ground of I agree, where it seems like enemies aren't really reacting to getting hit that much. But I will say the recoil and the sound design for the guns was very good. It had a
Yeah.
lot of kick to it. They sounded very crunchy. I use that word a lot when I describe like weapon sound design, but that's kind of what you should go for, especially with
Yeah.
weapons like this. So it's kind of half and half.
I put
You
it this
know?
way. To me, this looked more like an Outer Worlds type of gunplay than a Fallout 4 type of gunplay.
Which was fine for what Outer Worlds was.
Exactly. And I think
You know?
I think people need to tailor their expectations to that and not expect this to be a fully functioning third-person shooter. Like, don't expect this to be Star Citizen. That seems to be where I think people are going to be jumping the gun a little bit and
Well, first
and
of all, this is
comparing
coming
it.
out before Star Citizen.
Yeah, but Star Citizen does have first-person shooter combat, but it's very tactical and very more akin to like a Rainbow Six type deal. Do not expect that with this. They definitely
Yeah.
expect more of a Bethesda RPG where you are going to be having stats on your guns, you're going to be picking up randomized weapons and whatnot and finding
With
unique
sliding.
items.
Mhm.
Yeah. It looked like it was a crouch slide. Gotta love a good crouch slide. So, lockpicking in space, Todd Howard couldn't resist it. Good to see that back. Gotta find a way to incorporate a lockpicking minigame, which I'm always a fan of. So, yeah, I think this little gameplay demo on this moon looked very intriguing to me. I just hope with the environments they have, this is a gray moon with a white lab looking base. Really hope we see some more lush or more colorful environments.
I will say it's not the strongest like uh planet or moon to show off visually as our first impression of the world. I will say they go to New Atlantis, which has a bit more color to it, but I'm looking
Yes.
at it right now. It's still a little bit on the,
Still very
brown town
industrial
side,
sci-fi.
which I am fine with, but you can have industrial sci-fi with a little bit more color in there.
Yeah, I'm just hoping because we see a few planets that are more colorful, like this one with ice crystals everywhere that looks great. There's a few that are like lush and tropical. I'm really hoping we see some buildings that match that aesthetic and have more color to them, and don't look quite so like Apollo lander in aesthetic. As much as I like that aesthetic, I think there just needs to be a little bit of variation.
It is also, I must point out, it is very nice to see a Bethesda game with character models that don't look like freaks.
Yes. We see some character creation here. Looks a lot smoother than Fallout 4. Fallout 4
I
had
don't
the
even-
weird, like,
That was
nested
bizarre.
menus of odd ways to do things. This looks like you have your sliders. You have a character model that you can look at while you're manipulating everything and get to choose things. Looks very
Even-
good.
Even weird small things like your like walk animation is like you can have different types of walks, which is really interesting.
I just like that it looks like they knew where to limit the complexity here of the creator itself so that you're not overwhelmed, which I do very much appreciate. Yeah, I like the look of this character creator a lot. I love that you pick a background and you get stat boosts based on your background, the very classical RPG thing to do. And I'm very excited to see that because I think this is really indicative of this being an RPG and not more of a like shooter focused thing like Fallout 4 was. So love this. You get to pick traits.
It definitely does seem like I know that I think Todd Howard specifically has talked about this in the past where they were looking back at a lot of Morrowind, some of the more like hardcore RPGs and trying to bring some of those systems back.
Yeah.
Because they were getting very like more shooter than RPG with Fallout 4, and I think some people definitely like that, some people didn't, and I think they want to bring the RPG part of it back again.
Yeah, and I will say it does look like Fallout 4's weapon customization is coming back. We do see researching weapon mods and different
Mhm.
grip items and things like that. Love that. That's one of the best systems in Fallout 4 is the weapon customization system. So I am excited to see
Mhm.
that back. I think this is a good setting for it. The space setting has a
Settlement
lot of opportunity.
settlement building is also back, and again, I think it's a good setting for settlement building.
I think this makes
Definitely.
a lot more sense than it did in Fallout 4 because here you're billed as an explorer. That's the idea. Is you're joining an explorers guild and going to find these like lost artifacts and whatnot. Way better game concept. This feels more akin to like the Oblivion. You are a prisoner that just got found your way out, and you just have the world at your disposal. Here, this definitely feels like instead of being railroaded into this family story, I have an actual group that I can follow, and like a story that's a lot more open to interpretation, which I really
Mhm.
like to see. So I think it's a lot better way to start for this. You can place down beacons, create an outpost wherever you want, assuming it's not in a existing city. It looks very much like the building system here reminds me a lot of No Man's Sky, where you're like building rooms rather
Mhm.
than Fallout 4's system of you're placing individual walls. Because man, was that tedious.
Because
Uh,
that's what I was gonna say. I much prefer the way No Man's Sky does things, where you just do it room by room, and you can still create some
yeah,
really interesting stuff.
I mean, I played Fallout 4 again recently with a mod called Sim Settlements that lets you place down types of spaces. So you, instead of building a room, you'll place down like a residence, and it will then create a model that makes it so much better,
Oh, okay.
so much more fun. Because you don't need to spend hours doing every individual thing for every individual home. And I think that makes it a lot more fun to engage with. And I like
Mhm.
having that level of detail, but if you're gonna go to an outpost and set up a settlement to like just get it done. Like get a settlement created that looks decent. You can't. You have to sit there and individually place everything, which is just so annoying. So I'm excited to
I
see a more laid back building system. It looks like.
mhm. I do want to point out one thing. I'm currently looking at the menus. They're using a controller because it has left and
Yep.
right, a bumper. I am seeing some No Man's Sky Destiny menu with the cursor.
Can't avoid it.
Gosh.
And I am not happy to see that because I don't like
That's a little
it.
tacky.
I have, as someone who played a bunch of Destiny and has been playing a lot of No Man's Sky, I'm used to it at this point, and I can just kind of deal with it. But I am not happy about it,
Yeah.
Yep.
to put it in a way. I do get that sometimes games require inventories that you kind of need a cursor for it. I understand that, but that doesn't mean I have to like it.
Mhm.
Yep. All right. I want to talk about shipbuilding for a minute.
Yes.
I have it paused on the shipbuilding screen to run through some things here that I think look very interesting that I very much like. First of all, shipbuilding is a concept. Nobody expected this. Love to see it. This is
Oh.
I am okay with every ship looking like garbage if it's garbage that I build. I'll put it that way. Because at that point, you can blame me for the ships looking bad and not the game.
Yes.
Love this. I love this concept of like building your ship and inviting a crew to your ship and having a lot more ownership over it. This to me is like a great way to sell that fantasy of being a space explorer. You have reactor power here. I'm seeing different elements. You have different hull, shield, cargo space, jump ranges, mobility, top speed, your weight, your mass. Man, this is exciting to me. There's so
Mhm.
many numbers here to run through and customize.
Looks like you can make some pretty just ugly, chunky looking stuff, which I am
Yeah.
completely okay with.
Exactly.
Love to
Yeah.
see exact details of ranges and whatnot too.
And Brett pointed this out during the stream, but the I mean the amount of colors that you can, because they have like full like color sliders and all this
Yes.
stuff, and
You got Gundam
Love to see that.
customization.
and
Exactly.
then
Yeah.
something I pointed out right after was like, imagine the crazy spaceship customization mods we're gonna get in the next like 5 years.
Dude, I want to know, can I make a ship that is just super tall and very flat? Dude, can I do that? Is that a thing I can do? I hope so.
A piece of paper.
And we bring back the legendary Thomas the Tank Engine from Skyrim and just fly him around in space. How great would that be?
100% that's going to be a thing. People are going to replace every spaceship in this game with Thomas the Tank Engine. Yeah, I love the look of all of this. I think that it's got tons of potential for modding, tons of potential for cool things you can do. Think about different manufacturers with different focuses. Some of these pieces require skills, so they might be locked to the perk tree. I love everything I'm seeing here. Is screaming customization and RPG to me. So
this is the kind of thing that you can obsess over for.
And it looks like there's also 3 weapon types. I'm seeing laser, ballistic, and missile. I think these stand for, as to their power for different types of weapons. So to me, it looks very cool. I love the look.
This is also the kind of thing where, like, listen, just come out with a DLC pack that adds a bunch of new like base ship types and like pieces and stuff for like $20. Bam, there you go. And I think a lot of people would be interested in something like that.
Because they can do their Hearthfire equivalent for Skyrim, but here it's just for shipbuilding. You release a shipbuilding thing. So, yeah, I think this looks great. There's so much customization here. I have a feeling if you're expecting a good shooter, this game is probably not going to meet your expectations.
It's a Bethesda
if you're expecting Skyrim in space, as you probably should be, keeping in mind the expectations of Bethesda, I think this will be a good time. Then Todd Howard goes, so you guys want to know how big this game is. Let me show you how big this game is.
No!
This is the trap you're falling into. Then Todd Howard goes, see this planet? It has an outpost that you can land on. You can also land anywhere else. Now, I doubt this is going to be seamless. This to me screams Mass Effect, right? This is going to be, I think these planets are going to be largely empty.
Oh dear God! Oh, no.
Now,
hopefully,
that said,
you're not driving around styrofoam, but you know.
Yeah, look, I liked the Mako segments of Mass Effect 1, just for the sake of they made the worlds feel big. So, I think this might help, even if you never use landing on like random parts of this planet. I think this might help establish the scale of the setting, and I feel like that might be more valuable than actually having the ability to land on everything. There's 1,000 star systems in this game, from what it's been said. Each of the star systems has planets to land on with different things. So I'm assuming a lot of these are randomly generated. A lot of these are probably wildly nothing. But Wyatt, I've been scrubbing through this trailer and just so happened to stumble upon a little section of this vignette at the very end where they're going through different environments.
What's the time code? I'm there right now.
1:31:55 on the YouTube video. This little bit screams to me Blade Runner.
Wait, I'm just in the trailer, not like the.
Oh, I'm in the full presentation on YouTube. It is towards the very end of it. They're running through a couple of different scenes. This to me is the point where I look and go, okay, do all these environments look different? And I think they do. That's the exciting part to me. Is I'm seeing like 4 or 5 things that are going by here where I'm like, these look like large environments that I can get behind. One of them is very like Coruscant-esque looking, dingy, neon lit city block underneath what looks like a giant dome. Super cool. One is like an industrial area that almost looks like some kind of dune of like your planet, your lander going down, and you see these like solar panels on the side.
One of these areas looks straight out of Skyrim.
Yeah, one of these areas looks like just like a giant dig site out of Cyberpunk. One looks like some kind of storage facility that you would see on like a modern day expedition to the moon or something. You could see someone building this type of thing. So I love this like set of visuals we have here. I think this is looking really good. The things I think are. Go ahead.
I think that's one of the biggest advantages of like a space game is just the amount of variety that you can get from planets. And if that's not something you can take advantage of, that's such a huge missed opportunity.
Yeah, but I think even if you were to take out the landing anywhere, which I have a feeling is just not going to be, I think they put that in because they could, not because they needed to.
I hope it's not there because it doesn't seem like it conducive to the rest of the game.
Yeah,
'Cause
I think
we were talking
saying you
about it.
can land anywhere makes people more worried than if they just hadn't
Yeah,
said it.
like because I said something like this during the stream, but it's like I don't know. I prefer this approach to just all the good things that I should like from something like No Man's Sky, but just like actually tailored by human hands and not just like thrown to the void of a random generation to just
Yeah.
make something that's
I'm
like
gonna
brown, I guess. And I'm just like, okay, this is great. And then you say, thousand star systems. And I'm like, okay, well, they didn't make all those. And there's going to be like 90 million
Yeah.
planets where there's just like, I don't know. Have you scanned this tree before? No. Well, I mean, you can do that and then leave, I guess. It's
I'm gonna
just,
throw
I
this
don't know.
out
Okay.
there though.
Also,
Well,
correction to what I said. It is not 1,000 star systems. It's 1,000 planets.
It's
So
too many for
scale
people to
back
make.
by like a factor of 9. Still pretty smaller, much smaller scale. But
I'm gonna say this though. There is one thing that I can think of that all this potentially empty
oh,
space could
Wyatt,
be
I
used
think you're on the
for.
same mindset I am.
Yep. You have basically infinite amount of space for settlement building. You can
Settlement
do
building and Wyatt modding. So
exactly,
much space for modding. Now,
exactly.
unlike Skyrim, we're not gonna have the problem of you have to conflict mods. You can't use two mods because they use the same world space because the Skyrim world is very small. Now you have so much space.
You can have.
Assuming these mod
Oh,
tools come out.
here's a patch of dirt on planet 764B that we can just throw whatever
Throw
like
a cool monument in.
story mod in or whatever. And like I said, it's plenty of space for settlement building. So if you want to if you just like, all right, I'm gonna make a settlement and then move on to the next one because I just like settlements management stuff. You have so much free range to do whatever you want with that.
Yeah. I think that's the real benefit with this is you have a lot of empty space that you can kind of use as you see fit.
And so that's the reason why I'm okay with it because that's what I feel like it's there for is just player expression in a lot of the creative like customizable things that
Yeah,
they
I just
have
think
and for
don't
mods.
expect it to be like No Man's Sky where the whole planet is going to have populated things to do. It's
Yeah.
going to be because they're the locations here are very handcrafted from what they're saying. And it's more the world that the worlds at large will probably be the bits that are not handcrafted. So
Mhm.
I would expect a lot of empty space, which isn't a bad thing for the scale of space. It's just don't go in expecting there to be something to do at every landing spot on a planet. Um, I think tempering expectations is going to be really big for this game because Todd Howard has not done a great job at tempering the audience's
No.
expectations.
Todd
Uh,
Howard do be Todd Howard.
Do be
At
Todd
the end
Howard.
of the day.
If this game comes out and does everything he says it will, this will probably be the best thing Bethesda's ever made.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
I think probably 70% of what he said is going to work. The gunplay is not going to be good. It's going to be passable, and we're going to
But
have a pretty good RPG.
did anyone expect the gunplay to be good?
Yes, probably.
Clearly, some people did. Clearly,
In a
some
world
people
where
have.
Cyberpunk can reach the hype heights that it has, yes,
Yeah, I think a lot of
this has
people
potential. Yeah.
are going to fall into that trap. And whether or not that's their fault or Bethesda's fault, I think is definitely up in the air. But yeah, I would not go into this expecting a Star Citizen polish level of like first person combat with tactical elements. No, this is going to be you run into a little building and you shoot everyone inside with your blasty blast gun and hope that you have enough stat points that make your damage enough
No.
that
You
you
shoot
kill
them
them
with
before they kill you.
you shoot them with your box that just happens to fire bullets at it.
Look, if I can get a box that fires boxes, that'd be great. That's what I want.
Hey, listen, there'll
Jeez.
be a mod in the first 6 months where you
You're
can
right.
probably do that.
Yeah, I'm betting with the weapon modding system, we could probably make them look a little bit more unique. And there's a few things I saw in them that look like a little SMG that I was looking at and looked real good. So
The boxiness doesn't bother me, but I do see where you're coming from.
yeah, it doesn't bother me. It's just I don't want every weapon to look like that.
No, I understand.
Because yeah, Fallout 4 had the problem of like there's a cool assault rifle except it looks like an old Tommy gun for some reason and doesn't work super well. I think they want to avoid that aesthetic of everything is like a weird, really wide box.
Mhm.
Just because you then get everyone calling your everything in your game boxy, which is sad.
I will say this too. I feel like every time Bethesda comes out with a game, the like the visuals of their game are always like a few years behind whatever games are currently coming
Yeah.
out, right? I feel like we're still here with that. I feel like there were definitely some moments where I was like, oh, that texture looks a little dicey. But I think in comparison to, how do I describe this? The gap of time that there usually is when it comes to Bethesda like visuals is smaller. If
Yeah.
Skyrim came out and it was maybe 3 or 4 years behind, Starfield is like maybe 2 years behind or something. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I did not describe that very well.
No, I
but
get what you mean. This looks.
Yeah.
I put it this way. This looks closer to Death Stranding than it does Skyrim, but it does not look as good as Death Stranding.
Yeah.
In that kind of space.
But it's good
Of
enough,
course,
right?
Yeah. I think the main question is going to be, does the frame rate hold up? Because you can see in this video, it's not super consistent.
Yeah, and
of
some
course it
particle
is.
effects look really
Yeah.
low frame rate, which is funny.
It is relatively far away from release at this point. They've still got a number of months to sort out frame issues. So hopefully they find ways to do that without needing to compromise a ton. This is probably why this game is not coming out on last generation stuff.
Yeah.
Because it would not run.
Your Xbox
this
would
would just
just
crash everything.
Your Xbox would just catch fire and like take off into
Yeah.
space or something.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the show. We got through everything. We talked about all of it. We got shoutouts. And what I would like for shoutouts this time, I just want people to say, what's your game of the show aside from Starfield? What was a thing that you saw? And I'm going to extend this to anything from this past couple of weeks of Game of Thrones. What's a thing that you saw that you were very excited about? That's kind of looking up your alley.
That's a tough
cool
one.
project
Mm.
that you're
That's-
interested in, because I think there's a lot of fun things coming our way. So
I think for me, I am caught between Redfall and Witchfire.
yeah, I'm with you on Witchfire and Redfall. I think both of those look really good. I think I would probably pick that Erebin Shadow Legacy, just because that to me came out of nowhere. Like I had no idea this game existed. It looks really good. Yeah, I think as just like a surprise thing that's popping up, I liked that as a surprise a lot.
And Brett's is obviously As Dusk Falls, of course.
I mean, I gotta say, hands down, Minecraft Legends. No, I really, I'm liking what we saw from Cocoon, and I'm liking what we saw from, what was it, Flintlock?
Yeah.
Because I mean, they're both like, I mean, just visually, they just kind of look like things that are a little bit up my alley already. But I mean, we didn't see too much of them. We still got a ways off until they come out. But I mean, they're just like, that's why I really like the Xbox shows compared to the other big, console owner shows, because it's just they have so much space for like just weird little projects, and it's weird in the direction that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as always, we'll be back next week with more games coverage, talking about the rest of the Summer Game Fest, and things that popped up in other shows. As always, see you next time.
I think the PC gaming show is going on like right now. We just missed like all of it.
Oh yeah, well, that's what happens when we're talking about things.
Had to go back and I tried watching some of the other ones and I just got so bored that I didn't finish them.
No, I put this in chat, right?